I would say to potential whistleblowers, don't do what I did. Don't wait for years. Yeah, this is the moment that's in your clip. Actually, this is what I was saying. Wouldn't you go to prison to help end the war?
The man named Dr. Daniel Ellsberg turned himself in today to federal authorities.
And I am prepared to answer to all the consequences of these decisions.
Over half a century ago, I copied 7,000 pages of top secret documents, concealed precisely because it revealed crimes, deceits, lies, breaking of treaty, and mass death. And this deceit was run from the White House.
Audio check. Can you hear me? 10-9-8-7-6-5-4-3-2-1. Loud and clear.
Daniel Ellsberg is a dear personal friend of mine. He's a historic figure, but really more than that. When I was working at the NSA, and I discovered for myself that global mass surveillance was no longer a conspiracy theory, but it was something that was actually happening. Daniel Ellsberg is the figure who made up my mind and drove me to come forward. How could I do nothing when others had risked so much? And yet when he saw what was happening in Vietnam, when he saw the cost that it was having not only on our country, but the broader world, he said,
what could I do to help in this war now that I'm ready to go to prison?
And he believed that that could allow us to change the democratic consensus about what we should do in response to the war.
Whether it was covered by the First Amendment or not, I really knew very little about our rights, like everyone else. I didn't think about the Constitution. I worked for the president. I called a friend of mine, Tony Russo, and asked if he knew anybody with a Xerox machine. And he said yes. He had a woman friend at that time running a small advertising agency who had a Xerox machine, which was rare in those days. Started copying them on about October 1st, 1969. It took almost 2 years from the start.
Every single one of those pages was touched and was put on glass.
And copied enormous stacks of paper multiple times.
7,000 pages, even one copy adds up.
Freedom of the Press Foundation's mission is to protect and defend public interest journalism in the 21st century. And so we have tried to use technology not to betray journalists, but to actually use it to protect them. Snowden's NFT was based on 100 pages, but the Pentagon Papers is 7,000. And so we have actually created a moving image in which all 7,000 pages of the Pentagon Papers appear on the NFT behind the backdrop of Ellsberg giving this amazing speech in front of the courthouse when he is being charged.
Dr. Ellsberg, you have a concern about the possibility of going to prison for this?
My wife. They had every hope of the picture of bringing me in handcuffs. You know, I remember that.
This is the output of the script that I wrote, that thumbnails. It's almost like a video filter. You still get every page of the document, which is important. And so that makes the sheet and replaces the pages one by one. And the result is that cool composite. The irony of that being the origin of this, and then me spending an afternoon writing the script to like download all the parts of it and mash it together, that's interesting to me. So one of the first things I did, I think this is just a very funny thing, I created a single PDF that is 8,292 pages. It's a 1.3 gigabyte PDF. I just think as a funny artifact here, you've got PentagonPapers.pdf. Just as a document is something really remarkable. He thought he was going to go to prison.
I was indicted, facing eventually 12 federal counts, possible sentence of 115 years.
When I was talking to Ellsberg for the very first time, he said that I would be making a tremendous mistake to return to the United States. He told me things that I did not know.
The attitude of the government and the practice of secrecy and lying and criminality protected by secrecy and lying, I'd say has not changed at all. It's very hard to single out one president as being very different from the others. Some of them get caught, like eventually Richard Nixon.
He was called the most dangerous man in America by Richard Nixon.
Hello. Yes, Mr. President. John, the way I feel about this case is that we've got to have a united front on Ellsberg. We got to get this son of a bitch.
This actually shares some code with a project that I worked on with Ed as Stay Free. So some of this is aesthetic, and then some of this is kind of conceptual, where you're thinking about, like, if you want him to come through the papers. I didn't know this from the start, but talking with Dan, I heard about that courthouse experience in that moment. That was a significant time that he wanted to commemorate.
Well, it was fugitive, which I was when I surrendered. We went through a very circuitous route to get to that courtyard.
Even if the FBI had wanted to arrest him outside the courthouse this morning, they probably couldn't have done it. Ellsberg was walled off by a mob of newsmen and supporters.
There was no way they could get to me, really. Well, they would have had to jam through the crowd. So I was able to give my statement.
Dr. Ellsberg, you have any concern about the possibility of going to prison for this?
We have a quick bang. Wouldn't you go to prison to tell from this war?
So in my mind, NFTs are really a new forefront in philanthropy. We have to scratch and claw as a nonprofit organization to raise funding each year from dozens or hundreds or even thousands of sources. But when the Snowden NFT, Stay Free, was auctioned off, we were able to raise over a year's worth of our budget in a single day just because of that one event. With this NFT, we wanted to memorialize, thankfully, Daniel Ellsberg is around and not in prison and able to tell his story.
Now, it didn't actually establish a precedent to protect whistleblowers in the way it happened, but it did something much more important, which was it limited the ways that the government could lean on press.
And if the First Amendment means anything, it means that the US government can't censor a newspaper before it publishes something.
This means that the Supreme Court has already made up its mind, at least tentatively, on the issue of freedom of the press versus national security, and that it is now only a matter of completing the paperwork before that decision is announced.
The newspapers won, and the government lost. It's interesting to think, what is the world going to look like the next time this happens on this scale? How will they do it? How will they manage it? And how will they get away with it? I don't think anyone can say you could do better than Ellsberg. But the fact that at 91 years old, he's telling people,
Don't do what I did. Don't wait for years.
don't wait. You have to be both brave and swift.
Not after thousands more have died, or bombs have started falling, put it out. It can be worth any personal cost.
I could only regret that I had not at that same time released that information to the American public through the newspapers. I have now done so.